Hey guys, in this week's Casually Criterion episode, we are going to review Fish Tank, spine number 553. But before that, we are going to talk about Conan O'Brien Must Go and The Fall Guy. So, join us.
To the Casual Cinecast, powered by Cinelinx, the show where we talk about the TV and movies we've been watching, as well as do a deep dive review of a current movie or a classic film from the Criterion Collection as voted on by the listener via X/Twitter. This is one of those Criterion episodes, which we like to call Casually Criterion episodes. The film that won our last listener poll was Fish Tank, spine number 553. My name is Justin. With me, as always, is a man whose life motto is "Life's a bitch and then you die." Mike, how you doing?
Good. I don't even know how to live my life by that motto. To be honest with you,
I don't even really know what that means.
I
know what it means, but
I've never quite I get it.
I'm just not sure what I'm supposed to do with that information.
Yeah, I don't know how to have a life motto. To be honest with you, I've never considered having one.
Really? Never?
I don't know. What is your motto?
I don't know. I don't know if I have one, but currently, I feel like at one point I was very much a do unto others sort of person. Still mostly am, but I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So just like a really strong principle?
I guess so, yeah. But is life's a bitch and then you die a strong principle? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's more just a sad statement.
Yeah, it's more just like, expect bad things from life.
Yeah. Which isn't, I don't want to put that motto on you, actually, so I take it all back.
Well, it's pretty accurate, I guess. I guess I am living by that motto. Anyways.
You've learned something about yourself.
Yeah, I guess I have. Anyways, how are you, sir?
Man, I'm good. It's been a couple weeks since we've last recorded. And I guess just to address that, I think it's mostly, if not entirely, my fault because the last time we were going to record, I was nauseous and got sick from something I ate. So I was not up to recording. And then the next day, my power went out for the last week after the horrible storms there in Houston. So now I have power again as of last night after a week without. So now we can record.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's been good. I mean, other than having to leave my house and go stay with the in-laws for 5 days.
Yeah. Are they happy that you're gone?
I can only assume so. Although I like to think that I'm a not very intrusive guest. I just kind of hang around and listen to podcasts and play games on my phone and read. That's pretty much all I did.
Yeah. Quiet as a mouse.
Mm-hmm. They probably didn't even know I was there.
Yeah. Hopefully they did, though, because that would be weird.
Yeah. Yeah. What have you been up to the last couple
Not
weeks?
much. I am somewhere where the storms were not nearly as bad. So I've been with power for the past 5 days. So I've just been watching a bunch of stuff. Like, all the stuff we're going to talk about in News on the March is just, scratching the surface. I watched, 4 movies this past couple weeks, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, maybe to some people, but 4 is a lot for me in 2 weeks now. So,
yeah. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember this, but there were days in college when we were in film school that we kind of felt it was a failure if we only watched one movie that day.
Yeah,
it was it's kind of like a 2 movie minimum. Yeah. Otherwise, we felt like we were, not meeting a quota and failing.
Yeah. I remember whenever I first moved to the college town and I didn't have a job yet. And I was just living in an apartment where I didn't know anybody in the town.
Mm-hmm.
For that whole summer, I would just kind of wake up and watch 4 or 5 movies a day.
Well,
because I didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah, I'm sure people who avidly listen to this podcast, whoever those people are, probably think that's real cool. And then there's probably a bunch of people that don't think that's that cool.
Yeah, there's probably most people probably don't think that that's that cool. But at the time, I did.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I was briefly jealous, and then I moved in, and I don't know if that went up or down. We certainly didn't continue that pace quite.
Yeah.
I don't think.
You can't really continue that pace and also do anything else in a day.
Yeah, I made you do things like go outside and eat.
Yeah, eat. Open the windows.
Yeah, stretch a little bit.
Yeah. All right, anyways.
Anyhow.
So we should get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's find out what you've been watching.
Okay.
You on the mark!
All right, Justin. So the first thing that is on the docket is something that you have watched all of?
Correct.
I believe. Okay, and I have watched one episode of. So
I'm 4 times as knowledgeable about this as you
yeah.
are.
So obviously, I'm going to hand it off to you because you're the expert on said thing. So what have you been watching?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, I've been out of power for a bit. And so I haven't watched that much. I did watch like the trilogy of newer Planet of the Apes movie in preparation to go see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes in theaters this weekend, but then all of Houston got its power knocked out, so I didn't do that. So I think the theaters were even without power, at least most of the ones close to me.
Yeah, I saw it.
But yeah, well, I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point on here.
Indeed.
But I watched those. But outside of that, the only thing that I've been watching that I could talk about that's new is the Conan O'Brien Must Go show, which is his show on, I guess it's just called Max now.
Which is a terrible name. Kind of like X.
Yeah. Yeah. Shorter does not always equal better, in my opinion. Yeah. But anyways, it's on Max. Conan O'Brien Must Go. It's his travel show, which kind of feels like it's almost like goes hand in hand with his podcast, where I guess he takes callers from his from like people call into his podcast and he talks to them. Well, I guess the people that he's met through that from other countries, he goes to their country and he meets up with a lot of them, as well as does a lot of the normal travel show stuff like sightsee and try food and just learn about different experiences. But of course, it being Conan O'Brien, if you're at all familiar with him and his brand, it's typically very silly. Him being over the top and basically himself. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about Conan O'Brien, but I think that that's basically the deciding factor of if you're going to enjoy the show or not.
Right, yeah.
Because if you don't like his shtick, you won't like the show.
Imagine that, yeah.
Yeah. I personally like it. I found the show to be generally pretty funny. Most everything made me laugh. Some things didn't. He's very good at making people, I guess, like kind of confronting people about the things they say and like making sort of like awkward moments. Mm-hmm. And then he kind of leans into that awkwardness as much as he can. And basically, and he's also the kind of guy that what I've seen is that if he thinks something's funny, he'll go like the whole 9 yards with it until it's not funny anymore.
Yeah.
For better or worse. So you've seen one episode. So which episode did you watch and what did you think?
Just the first one.
I think that's Norway.
Correct. Yes. I didn't skip around at all. I just was going to watch them in order. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was funny. It was basically just like an entire episode's length of that like Conan Without Borders skit that used to come on all the time, where he would travel a little bit and then make jokes, and
which I never watched.
Okay, well, I mean, it's just you can watch clips of it on YouTube. It's just like little shortened versions of this kind of thing where he kind of goes around. He'll talk to locals. He'll usually like he tries to make himself the butt of the joke.
Yes,
more times than not, which I think is very much the charm of Conan O'Brien. Sometimes he'll put like others on blast whenever they set him up too perfectly. Mm-hmm. But more times than not, his humor is based in like, how can I make myself look like as much of an ass as possible?
Yes.
And I like that. And it's usually pretty harmless fun.
Yeah, it's like it's not mean-spirited in any way because it's always aimed at himself, but it's pretty mean-spirited towards himself sometimes.
Right. Like, he knows that he's like an awkwardly tall,
Pale.
strange-looking man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, he's always leaned into that. And that's always, been a lot of, I think, what draws people to Conan O'Brien, because he's a different style than your other talk show hosts that kind of came before him in a good way. It's refreshing. It can get a little old. I wouldn't want to binge this show, but some people might, and they may love the whole thing. Conan's one of those people where, like, I'll probably watch an episode of this every time I have time to kill, and I just need to kind of laugh a little bit. It's not heavy at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's somewhat educational, but I wouldn't watch this for educational purposes.
But I wouldn't say I know more about Norway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it is fun to see him, go to different cultures and like talk to them, kind of prod them a little bit, see what they know about him.
Yeah. And what's interesting about this is he's got this sort of backstories with certain people. Like he meets people that have been on his podcast previously. So a lot of times you see the clip of them on his podcast, and then he shows up at their front door.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of go from there. And that's mostly the most entertaining parts that I found, is him meeting up with these people.
Right.
Usually, like for example, on the Norway one, he meets up with a guy who is like produces music and is like a rapper.
Uh-huh.
And Conan talks about on the podcast, like appearing in one of his songs and helping him, get on the radio.
Uh-huh.
And so he goes to Norway and basically does that and appears in a song. And I think that those sections of all the episodes are the best stuff to me.
Right. Like the little personal angles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the stuff that I look forward to the most, which is a different angle than like the Conan Without Borders thing. Like, that's just kind of the sillier parts where he talks to random locals, but the part where he actually meets like fans, or presumably fans, people who he's communicated with before, that is interesting. And that was probably the most new, I think, that was in the show, because other than that, I think it's just pretty safely Conan O'Brien's brand of humor. I think what you're going to get.
Yeah. I will say that I do ultimately recommend it. I think it might have something for people who don't like travel shows, just because it's way sillier and doesn't take itself seriously, and they do little skits and funny stuff. Yeah, it's
definitely more silly, and I wouldn't call it a travel show, but I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't either. But there's only 4 episodes in this first season too, so it's not a lot. But
oh man, I thought there were more. I thought there were like 5 or 6.
Nope, it's only 4. Norway, Argentina, Thailand, and Ireland. Which the Ireland one's quite funny because he is Irish. Yeah. So he plays off that a lot. And also, if you've seen The Lighthouse, there's some funny bits in there sort of referencing that. And but my favorite is, I think, the Argentina one. I found it to be the one I laughed the most in, regardless of anything else. It's also the first one I watched, so I don't know if there's any correlation in there.
You were in the best mood at that point.
Yeah, maybe. But I watched like one a night, not even consecutively, over the course of like a week and a half to get through.
Are they all different lengths, or are they just one length?
I think they're all roughly the same length. I don't think they vary enough to be worth mentioning, but they're all roughly 45 to 50 minutes.
Rock on. Which is long.
So easy. Yeah. I mean, it's about typical length for a travel show, at least. Well, I don't watch a lot of travel shows. I watch this and Somebody Feed Phil.
So
Phil
I hear.
On Netflix.
Yeah.
So, and those episodes are also the same length as this Conan show. So
sure.
It's standard as far as I know, which is almost nothing.
Yeah. Well, I also recommend it because I'm going to keep watching it. But based on the one episode, I recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for a good laugh is what I'll say. Easy watching. But okay, that I can leave it there if you've got nothing else, and kick it over to you. What are you talking about?
All right. So, like I said, I was watching a lot of things this week. I watched, like I said, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I watched Challengers and Madam Web. But the thing I'm going to talk about today is something I actually just watched last night. And that is The Fall Guy, starring Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, amongst others. Directed by David Leitch.
David Lynch? David Leitch.
Leitch.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be crazy. That would be interesting.
I was about to stop this podcast and go watch it.
Yeah, like, hang on. I've misjudged this movie from the marketing.
Yeah, I had no idea it was going to be Lynchian. Anywho, go on.
Well, anyways, I would say that this movie is mostly pretty good. It's very silly.
Yeah.
It is sort of like a silly romantic comedy-esque action comedy. I don't know. It's a blend of a lot of things. And I think it mostly pulls it off. Story-wise, it's kind of whatever. Like, I think the charm of this movie is the charisma of Ryan Gosling, obviously.
Sure.
His chemistry with Emily Blunt, and some pretty good stunts. This movie is, I think, at its best whenever it's just sort of like this shameless homage and sort of send up in love letter to stuntmen and stunts, which is often an industry or a whole section of the industry that kind of gets overlooked with awards recognition, probably pay. They don't get a lot of attention. And they do some really crazy, awesome stuff. And they are usually pretty crazy, cool people, I would imagine. Or at least crazy or cool. I don't know, maybe both. But anyways, this movie, I think, works best whenever it's trying to be a love letter to that stuff, because there's a lot of crazy set pieces, a lot of cool vehicle stunts, jumping stunts, fighting stunts, explosions, all kinds of stuff. This movie tries to sort of function on that level, right? It's a pretty basic romantic comedy, very silly, feel good, with a lot of action. It's kind of like, not quite this silly, but kind of like The Big Hit, where it's like it'll be something really silly and then a really good action beat. I enjoyed The Big Hit much more, and I know you love that movie.
I love it to death. You said the magic words.
Yeah.
It's like The Big Hit is all I need to know.
Yeah, not quite that silly, but I think I'm interested, basically, to hear what you're going to think of this movie, because I know you like romantic comedies.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm interested in comedies in general, not just of the romantic variety.
Also true.
Because I didn't love this movie, but I feel like I see a lot of love for it online. It's not doing great in the box office right now, which is kind of a bummer. But the people who have seen it seem to be really loyal to it. And I came away not really loving it on the level that I want to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't very into it for like the first probably 25, 30 minutes. And then once the story kind of picks up, I got kind of more into it. But it was operating on like a level of like high comedy that I didn't quite get on board with. So, I don't know. Very charming performances overall. Really strong fight choreography. Some of the jokes didn't totally work for me. So, all in all, I still recommend it. That everyone see it.
Did you see it in theaters, or did you see it at home?
I saw it at home.
Yeah. Okay. Because that's like kind of the bigger story about this movie now, is that it was barely in theaters over 2 weeks, and then they released it for home.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Because I don't know if that was always the plan, but it was never marketed that way.
Yeah, I don't know why studios do that. I don't know if it makes a huge difference to the box office, but they've been doing that more and more, where it seems like it's too early. I don't know why people are releasing them with such a quick turnaround. I don't know if there's a marketing benefit for that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, I wanted to go see this in theaters, but I mean, the truth of the matter is, now that it's available at home, that's where I'm going to watch it.
Yeah,
most
I mean,
likely.
I think it would have been better in theaters. I'm not going to lie.
Right.
But, yeah, there's only so much time in the day, and movies are expensive.
Mm-hmm. And I only like to go to the one that's a half-hour drive from me, so I got to bake in an extra hour round trip to the time. I know. But still,
I mean, you could probably go see this, and no one would be in there now.
That's probably true now that it's at home. That's fun. Well, I mean, I know I'll watch this relatively soon because,
all right.
Who doesn't love
when
Ryan
you
Gosling?
do, we should revisit this topic and see how my affection for it has either grown or diminished, and see what you think of it. You may not like it, I don't know, but I am interested to see if you do.
Yeah, well, it kind of felt like it came along as maybe sort of like the first potential big movie in theaters because it has Ryan Gosling in it, and it's an action comedy. I imagine generally pretty accessible, and it seemed to me like a lot of people were ready to champion it as like the first big like blockbuster movie to go see. I mean, I guess we had Dune Part 2.
Yeah, but that was more of like a spring blockbuster.
Yeah, it was kind of like ushering in the summer. Yeah. So that's kind of what a lot of the love felt like to me, more than I felt the sentiment of like, this movie's incredible, it's great. It was more the sentiment that like, hey, this movie's a lot of fun, and it's worth going to see in theaters, and it should be the next big, the first big summer blockbuster.
Yeah.
Sort of vibes. And I don't know if I would call that more hopeful.
Right.
Hopeful fanaticism for it. But maybe. That's just the vibe I got.
Yeah, it could be. But I don't know. I've heard some strong word of mouth and some good recommendations on some other podcasts I listen to and stuff. So I think this movie's pretty beloved. Or at least it is right now. But I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's pretty good. It does a lot of things really well. That's kind of what I'll say about it. And then some things just were kind of a bore to me. Here, my last thing I'll say about it before we move on. Mm-hmm. It's a 2 hour and 5-ish minute movie.
Yes.
I honestly think they could have knocked 10 minutes out, 15 minutes out, and it would have made for better pacing. I know that may not be a popular opinion, but that's where I stand. Tighten it up a bit.
Yeah. Well, I feel like when you get under 2 hours, a lot of times I don't know if this isn't my opinion necessarily, but it's just what the world feels like these days is that if it's under 2 hours, it's not a serious movie. Like,
yeah, but it's not a serious movie. It's a fun movie. So
yeah,
I think we should embrace the short run time. Pack a lot into a little time. I don't like. It's hard to go into it without specifics, but there's like an entire fight sequence with a character that only appears for like one sequence, and then that character's gone, and that character could have just been completely removed from the movie, and it would have saved, like, I don't know, almost like 5 minutes. Just stuff like that, where it's like, I know they wanted to have a cool fight scene and show off some good stunts, and I appreciate it on that level. But I don't know. I just feel like the movie is a little too long, but mostly it's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, to go back, like, maybe serious was the wrong word. More like, if you want to be seen as a legitimate, like, potential blockbuster big movie that's worth people's time. It feels like they're trying to hit that 2 hour mark, because like once you get under, it feels more like an indie film these days. So it's like only indie films I see that are under 2 hours.
Right. Yeah.
Or the really artsy ones that are over 3. Between 2 hours and 3 hours, you're in like blockbuster territory.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't know. Sometimes
Kingdom
it feels
Planet
arbitrary.
Apes is 220 something.
Yeah, I don't expect any big releases this summer to have anything under a 2 hour time or over 3.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Interesting. Does that include children's movies like Garfield?
Probably not. Probably not children's
Give yourself
movies.
some wiggle room there.
Yeah. Not children movies, but the movies that are like all ages appeal.
Yeah, like Furiosa and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you could argue Barbie, but that's not really the one. Like Mission Impossible movies and that sort of thing.
Sure.
Any superhero movie.
Yeah. Marvel's was an hour 45.
That's right, and people hate it. So look at that.
I do not hate it.
I know. I don't even know if people hate it, but I haven't heard anything good about it or anyone really talk about it. So I assume it wasn't particularly well received. And somewhere out there, there's studio executives thinking it was too short, and that's the problem.
That's the lesson taken from.
Yep. But
right.
Okay. Do you got anything else on the Fall Guy?
No. If you've seen it and you think I'm wrong, let me know. I guess.
Okay. I will once I see it. Yeah. I'll be like, this is as good as The Big Hit.
No, I didn't say that. I said it was not.
No, I know, but I would say that to you because you were wrong.
Oh, I see.
Because you said it's not as good as The Big Hit, and I'll say, no, it was.
I hope that's what you say to me when you finally see it.
I would love to love a movie as much as I love The Big Hit.
Yeah.
I'd love to find one. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep going with an open mind and an open heart, and who knows what could happen.
Yeah. A new movie. I've seen plenty of movies that I love more than The Big Hit, or equally as much. But in terms of like newer movies, I'd love to like find something on that level. It would be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. All right.
You ready?
Yeah. Let's review Fish Tank.
Okay. Let's go.
What's your problem?
Your terrible dancing's my problem.
What you want?
What's wrong with you?
You're what's wrong with me!
Don't mind me, girl. Carry on. I'm a friend of your mother's.
Get some clothes on me. You're half naked.
I don't normally care.
Where are you going?
You're going for a drive.
You want to come?
No, she won't want to come.
All right, so as always with our Criterion films, we will not be doing the spoiler-free general section up front like we do for our newer films. These Criterion films have typically been out for years and years, if not decades. This one came out in 2009, I believe. So no spoiler-free section. This is your spoiler warning, your spoiler alert. If you have not seen Fish Tank and you don't want anything spoiled, pause the podcast, go watch the movie, and then come back and finish listening.
All right, so Fish Tank, spine number 553, was directed by Andrea Arnold. It stars Katie Jarvis, Michael Fassbender, and Kirsten Waring.
Sure, that's what I would say.
Okay, all right. The IMDb synopsis says, everything changes for 15-year-old Mia when her mum brings home a new boyfriend.
Yep, and it says mum.
Yeah.
That
that wasn't an artistic choice or creative license taken with that synopsis.
Yeah.
That was...
You're like Ron Burgundy. If you put something on, you will read it.
Yeah. That's right. So yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate synopsis. Keeps it nice and vague, but also kind of alludes to what we all know it's building towards.
Yeah, it's very vague, but man, for better or worse, I guess.
Yeah. And so Fish Tank was, I believe, your choice, your win, correct? Mm-hmm. Give you a little time to give you your moment.
Yeah, I finally won one, I think, for the first time in like 8 polls, it feels like. Mm-hmm. So I'm proudly going first.
Yeah, let's see if we can,
this week.
Let's see. I bet that streak keeps going for you based on what we're choosing later for the Criterion polls.
I hope so. I hope you're right.
Yeah.
2 in a row?
Maybe, if you're lucky.
It sounds sweet already.
I know.
I could just taste the meaty poll-winning parts in my mouth.
Yeah. Good.
Anyways, Fish Tank. Should I go?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So, yeah, I chose this film. We were choosing films from the 2000s as part of our decade marathon. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Running through the decades of Criterion films.
But yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. We should think of a catchier name for it, but
I know.
Anywho, I chose this
marketing on
film
it.
because it's a movie I love, and I think it's one of the more impactful movies in my life, at least in terms of the style that I was trying to go for as like a filmmaker. There's kind of a time before this movie and my filmmaking style, and then a time after. And there's a handful of those movies that came out during the time that I was in film school. So this to me is a very important film artistically, because I just absolutely love everything about it, from the camera work to the color palette to like the borderline documentary feel to the movie.
Yeah, aspect ratio.
Yeah, the aspect ratio that's I believe it's Academy. I don't know if it's anything. Yeah, 1:33 to 1 aspect ratio. And just the performances, the story, it's very slice of life, which is, if you want to call that a specific genre, that's my favorite genre, whether that kind of delves into comedy or drama or sci-fi or whatever. Slice of life is generally one of my favorite sort of movies. And so when I saw this, I mean, it was just pushing all my buttons I didn't even know I had, including, you know, in my younger days in film school and stuff, I did have an affinity that for movies that sort of pushed boundaries, you know, at least as far as I was concerned, and as far as like my film knowledge, was pushing boundaries. And especially I was interested in movies that, like, you know, handled sex and did some like riskier things with sex, you know, films like Shame from Steve McQueen, or even like Antichrist, right?
Yeah.
I'm
That's
sure I can
kind of
think
like
of
when
other
I first
examples.
watched The Night Porter, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah, I was really intrigued by that, with like the way that the films handled that. I guess a lot of Lars von Trier falls
A lot
into
of
that category.
like The Dreamers was like kind of like that for me.
Yeah. So even this I found intriguing for its scenes that have sex in them, and this one was particularly impactful to me and jarring. And so yeah, it kind of shocked me in that way, that I liked at the time. And I don't know if I seek that out as much nowadays as I did then. But I know that it was impactful for me at the time. So like in that sense, it'll always be impactful for me. But I think this was maybe my 6th or 7th time to see this movie. And to me, it's just one I don't get tired of. I think it's really well paced. It feels like a ton of things happen, but to me, this movie moves and things are happening and sort of unfolding constantly. I don't feel like we have any scenes that kind of just don't go anywhere or build upon the tension or the plot or story or something like that. Because I've always, in my head, I've always thought that this movie was about 1 hour and 40 minutes. And when I sat down to watch it, I realized it was 2 hours and 2 minutes.
Yeah, that surprised me too.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, the pacing of this is just fantastic. And love the story. I find it interesting. I very much I feel for the main character a lot. And I don't know that anybody in this movie is a very good person, but I think it takes a lot of empathy to feel things for different characters in this movie. And that to me is one of the things that I admire most about it, is because I don't think we're supposed to dislike most of the characters in this movie, but it could be easy to do. And I think the challenge of the movie is to find that empathy in people who aren't doing great things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll leave it there for now. Mike, what are your thoughts on Fish Tank?
Well, this was my second time seeing this movie. I think the first would probably, I assume, be with you.
Yeah.
In college, did I watch it with you?
Yeah. You and me and one or two other people, I think, watched it together for the first time.
That was my memory of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I recall being a fan of it the first time. It did not make the impression on me that it made on you, but I have always looked back on this movie fondly and have never forgotten it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy to say that the film very much still works for me. I still think it's quite good. I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to say it does, or I was surprised basically that it was longer than I remember it being. It doesn't feel that long. Like you said, it's probably the pacing, so that's awesome. But yeah, the movie's pretty straightforward. It's a coming-of-age movie with a plot that's basically centered on and around some really strong performances. Mm-hmm. And we can get into all that in a bit, but yeah, I pretty much love the whole cast here. Everyone seems so real. The world we are shown feels authentic. And I suspect that's because much of what we are seeing and some of the actors are not professional actors, and we're seeing probably pretty close to real locations.
Yeah, I think they did shoot on location in like one very specific area of the UK.
Yeah, and it feels like it. It looks like it. Yeah, it reminds me a lot of like a Sean Baker movie, kind of, in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, immediately when I started watching whatever the first Sean Baker film I saw, which was probably Florida Project,
yeah,
I thought of Fish Tank.
And I still need to see Florida Project, which is a big blind spot for me. But I have seen Fish Tank, and just to wrap up my thoughts, I think it's quite strong. It still leaves an impression on me. It's just as good as I remember it. And yeah, I can't wait to get into it more.
Sure. One of the things, just why we were mentioning Sean Baker, I think one of the similarities that grabs me, and maybe the biggest one, is the color of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not necessarily bright. This one's like overcast a lot.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that's kind of how the UK exists generally. So Sean Baker's not quite that like overcast regularly, but like the settings and the color grading on it like maintain a lot of like the color and saturation of the world. Like it's almost more colorful and more saturated than the real world, but
yeah,
particularly with Fish Tank, it's very much, everything else about it is very real and feels very real. Like I said before, almost documentary like. So there's almost a clash, like opposing ideas that come together in a really interesting way for me when I watch this.
Yeah. When I think of this movie, the color palette that comes to my brain is like gray, blue, like white, just kind of very kind of muted.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Their apartment is really colorful.
Yeah,
like
but I don't remember it that way, but I guess you're right.
Yeah. Oranges and pinks and purples, and I think even the skin tones are pretty like saturated.
Yeah.
At least Michael Fassbender's, because he's like supposed to be sort of like tan, appealing man. Which I think he is in general.
Yeah, I think that's obviously why he was cast here.
Yeah.
And I think he's quite good here. Like you said, he's kind of meant to be charming, and he's kind of got this like snake-like charm, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Where there's times where like before anything goes completely, like, I don't know, like basically you could see what happens coming a mile away. Like it's a very slow build to this relationship he has with the main character, Mia. And you get the vibe that he's creepy pretty quickly into that, or there's a creepy quality to him pretty early on. But
I think
he's
immediately
still like
the first scene when he comes in and he watches her dance.
Yeah.
For a minute.
Yeah, exactly. And he like plays it in such a way. It's a slow unfolding, that happens. Because at first you're like, yeah, all right, buddy, like maybe don't stare so long. But you kind of believe, you're like, well, maybe there was nothing to that. And then, okay, maybe there's nothing to that. And then eventually, like, there's just no denying it. You're like, yeah, this guy's no good. I don't like him.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah, I think the moment where she comes and asks him for money with when she's like running around having fun with the boy who's got the horse,
mm-hmm.
and he starts asking her like, who's the boy, and like you kind of feel there's a sense of jealousy, and then he's trying to hand her the money and he holds it up and makes her like jump for it, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's for me, that's the point in the movie where I'm like, oh, it's crossed the line.
Yeah. My suspicions were correct. Yeah.
Like, it's probably crossed the line before, but like definitely now he's being blatantly
the intentions are clear.
inappropriate. Yeah. But he's really good, and even him being Michael Fassbender, it's a bit hard to ignore, you know, because everyone else in the movie's relatively unknown. I think it was Katie Jarvis's first film, and I don't think she's done much since.
No, but also Michael Fassbender wasn't huge yet.
He was not.
He had just been in Hunger.
Hunger. I had seen him in Eden Lake, which was like a horror movie where he was like
in the same year he was in Inglourious Bastards, but it was a very small part, so he hadn't quite blown up yet.
And I didn't even remember him being in 300, but I know people cite that a lot too.
Oh yeah, I have not seen 300 since I knew who Michael Fassbender was. So
yeah, same. And this was the pre like Magneto days where everyone kind of knew who he was after that, and pre Steve Jobs, I guess, is the other big thing he was in. But
I mean, he's been in a few big things, but yeah.
Well, like I'm trying to think of things that like everybody would know.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, obviously, he's very good here. He's very charming and everything like that. Good performance. But to me, the standout, the lead, is Katie Jarvis, obviously.
Yeah.
Who, for a first-time actor and probably, I assume, a non-professional actor at this point in her life, she fills the screen. You know, like, she's got it. You know, like you want to watch her do things and you care about her, you know, and she doesn't feel... Like, she feels like very unpolished. Like, she feels like a real person.
Yeah, very unpolished. I think, like, they don't... She's got some, like... can't remember what it's called, but there's some, like, bad skin, you know?
Yeah.
It's not, like, acne necessarily, but there's... She doesn't have, like, perfect skin or, like, perfect hair.
Right.
And they kind of just let her be. As opposed to maybe, like, a ton of makeup.
Right.
Or something, and that feels good to me.
Yeah, and anyway, like she's really great here, and you care about her character, Mia, and you want what's best for her, while simultaneously also knowing that she's like kind of a bad kid. Yeah. You know, she starts fights. She seems like emotionally kind of unintelligent. She's rude.
Yes,
but all of that's like not entirely her fault, you know. So you kind of care about her.
Yeah, it's a product of her upbringing.
Yeah,
and also where she was brought up.
Yeah, her terrible environment, or I don't want to say that, but it seems like her particular environment, her relationship with her peers, her mother. It's like it's all pretty toxic, and she kind of has this hardness about her because of it.
Yeah.
This thick skin that she's developed.
Yeah, I think the movie does a great job of making you see where that all comes from.
Yeah. And also what I think the movie does a really good job of doing is showing us what dance is to her. Right? And her relationship with it and her approach to it versus like her peers and girls her age. Like at the beginning when she goes to, I guess, the park or whatever, where like the other girls are dancing, and the way that they're dancing and dressing is like way more sexual than what Mia is doing and how she is dancing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I don't know if she's just like, that doesn't appeal to her, or I don't know if she like doesn't know how to do that. The movie never really makes it clear. But what is clear is that like her approach is entirely different.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think I don't know if there's a subtext there of her not thinking about herself that way, not having the confidence or
maybe just kind of rebelling, because like her mother's like that. Her mother's kind of very open and like free spirited, and kind of like likes to dance also, and more
sort of like
sexual
minimal
way
clothing
than Mia does. Yeah,
yeah. That's a good point. She could be rebelling, but I think it feels like regardless of Michael Fassbender's charm, it's also the attention that she gets from him feels like she doesn't get that sort of attention.
Yeah,
ever.
Right.
So maybe she doesn't think about herself that way. I do think that also she's not a very good dancer. And
no.
I appreciate that as well. Like it very much fits into those, like, I don't know if you ever read them, but like the Pixar's rules for writing a story.
I have not. Yeah.
One of them is something of like we admire a character more for their dreams than what they actually accomplish, or more for trying than failing, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I feel that way about this movie, is because I think she's not particularly good at best. To me, she's very average.
Yeah.
And
at best, yes.
Yeah. And that makes me feel for her as well. I think it's an endearing quality, not necessarily in like, oh, you think you're good, but just like I appreciate the dream and her going for it, and she puts in the time,
Yeah. Like Pearl.
Like Pearl. Yeah. Yeah. And I get the vibe that her mom probably never wanted kids, and also that there was never any chance that like a father was going to be around. Like I feel like Mia's been raised by a single mother her whole life.
Yeah, and if she ever did want Mia, she certainly doesn't now.
Oh yeah, yeah. But there is the scene actually where she literally tells her she had an appointment made for an abortion.
Yeah, but I like to think that maybe when she was a baby, there were some good times, but maybe not.
Maybe.
Probably not.
But regardless of that scene, like I still think she was always raised by a single mother. She's never had a father figure.
Yeah.
In her life at all. Not saying that would have made her better or anything like that. But there's a sort of tragic subtext to the mother character, because I think she's one of the characters that is pretty terrible, but there's an empathy that I come away from the film with for her that I kind of have to stretch to feel, to kind of understand.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stems from what I think is like under the surface there.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, one of the things I wrote down to talk about is I feel like every character in this movie could have their own equally interesting movie. Like, I feel like the mom character, there's so much going on there that is only hinted at or barely touched on in Fish Tank. And I don't know, I just find that really interesting, that the world feels so rich.
Yeah. Even her little sister.
Yeah.
I think has such a personality that she feels like she could carry her own movie.
Yeah.
And every time I see the little sister, I don't know if you got this, but she looks like Tony Hawk as a little girl to me.
Yeah. Okay. I see that.
I think about it every time I'm watching it. I'm like, this was Tony Hawk her dad? Did he roll through on a Boom Boom Huck Jam tour or whatever those were called?
Yeah.
Back in the day. X Games, UK. But anyways.
So we're this far into it, and I have yet to ask the most obvious question. What's with the horse?
And like, what's it doing in the movie?
Like, what do you make of the horse? The whole horse subplot. Why?
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
I think to me it's pretty clearly a metaphor, symbolism for the way that Mia feels. I think she feels shackled to this area, and I think she does feel like dance is a way out, even if that's not explicitly stated, or that's not really even what she ever strives for in the movie.
It's certainly an escape.
Yeah,
To her in the moment, I think, at the very least. But yeah, probably the greater dream would be to take your dancing skills and dance your way to a better life. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I guess we kind of find out that the horse is old and sick. Which is sad. But even before we find that out, the horse, what is it going to do? It's shackled there. It's stuck there. It's just going to, if it's not old and sick, it's going to get old and sick and die.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that is also the same situation that Mia is in. Like, there's not much to do in where she is in life, like the area and everything. Like, I don't think she's in school. I know they want to send her to a school or something like that.
She's probably supposed to be in school. She just doesn't go there.
Yeah. If she was, I don't think she would go. But I think it just represents what her life could be by just never moving, never growing, never going anywhere.
Yeah.
What do you feel the same way? Do you have another interpretation?
Yeah, that interpretation definitely entered my mind. As I was watching it, I was trying to look at it from all angles. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. But doesn't she first see the horse shortly after first meeting Michael Fassbender's character?
I think she sees it for the first time right before.
Okay.
That.
All right. And when's the last time she sees it? Like, when does that happen in the movie? It's like, it's after everything, right? She goes there after the kid, right? Or is it before the?
I think
it's shortly after they sleep together.
Yeah, and then the horse is gone.
Yeah. So I kind of was looking at it as it had something to do with that relationship. Maybe, I don't know, maybe like desire, temptation, or the way she viewed him. I'm not sure. But I don't know, maybe a little bit of a couple different things. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't arrive to any satisfying like one-to-one. But I think it's definitely symbolism for her feeling sad for it being stuck there in an environment it didn't belong. I think that's definitely the strongest, connection I can make to it.
Yeah.
What feels strong to me anyway.
Yeah. Maybe the thing that I would struggle to like connect those dots is because I'm not entirely sure what she wants from the relationship with Michael Fassbender. If it's anything more than just like, this feels good, this feels nice to have someone treating me well.
I think there's definitely a strong sense of like awakening desire on her end.
Mm-hmm.
The way she like listens to him breathe, I don't know, the way the camera films him whenever it's through her, it's not necessarily like from her point of view, but it's through her gaze, it feels like a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the way he is filmed in this movie is like, I think you are supposed to understand what she's thinking and that she is very feeling things. She's feeling things.
Yeah. I think one of the ways the movie does that really well too is there's these shots kind of littered throughout the movie every so often that are in slow-mo.
Yeah.
And I was really noticing this time that every time that happens, it sort of represents some sort of significant shift in her, or for her,
Mm-hmm.
Either some sort of line that's been crossed or just some sort of like feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it's like when she's looking at him in the car when they're driving out to like that lake and he's like played the music and he's singing and the shot of him is just, it's very like, it's not really glowy in a literal sense, but he seems very handsome. it's a very flattering shot of him, I think.
Right.
And that kind of slows down. It does it again when the girl kind of escapes from her briefly and is running through the field, his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of, to me, represents this point of like you really don't have any way out of this. That's good for you.
Yeah.
But
and
anyways,
that's truly a terrifying part when you're watching it, because you're just like, how could this possibly have any outcome that's good?
Yeah. And there's very much a act first, think later vibe to every, the part you called out, whether she goes to the girls in the park and she just starts like confronting them.
Yeah. Immediately hostile. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't even know what's going through her mind necessarily when she goes to ask him for money with the guy.
I think she's flirting.
Is she just trying to make him jealous? Or
maybe. I think she's doing her best. Here's the thing. I think she's feeling a lot of things, and she hasn't really been taught which decisions are like the decisions she should be making.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a slow build, I think, but yeah, basically from the moment that he picks her up and carries her to her bed, and like all the sound cuts out except for his breathing.
Mm-hmm.
I became very aware of like her doing things to kind of flirt, although she doesn't know how. And what it's super uncomfortable is that like he should know that and shut it down, but instead he's like this gross opportunist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that he goes out like looking for like little kids to talk to, but the fact that like he doesn't shut it down or like sees what she's doing and then like reciprocates it,
right,
is such like an uncomfortable thing to slowly happen for a long time. But it's also like this train wreck you can't look away from also, you know what I mean? And
mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's just sad knowing that like this girl's navigating these feelings, and like you get the idea that she's probably never had a good honest talk about sex or like how to do it safely or what it is.
Yeah.
But like how clueless she actually is at things, and it's scary to watch her try to navigate that with like a man who should know better, you know?
Yeah. And I definitely don't think this is like her first sexual experience either.
No.
But she's probably had several, to your point, like none of them probably with like proper knowledge.
Right. Well, like certainly, hopefully not with anyone this old.
Yeah. I don't get that vibe.
Is kind of what I mean, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that vibe that this is a regular thing for her. I mean, I also think part of this is like revenge on her mother too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's in there as well. Because like really early on, her mother is like, "Don't come down to the party, stay out of sight." And like when she's like, she wakes up and Michael Fassbender's there in the morning, and she's like, "Put some clothes on. Like, what are you doing?" Yeah. Until the mother's like very threatened and kind of like lashing out at her. Yeah,
it's weird, like this dynamic of that, like the mother, like when she was a little kid, she was probably a lot friendlier to her, I would imagine. But now that she's like, views her as sexual competition, like it creates like a really unhealthy dynamic, and it's super uncomfortable.
I don't know if I feel that she was ever that nice to her. Like I feel like there's such like, resentment. Nicer, maybe. Yeah,
I was about to say like maybe more like the little sister gets, which is just like straight up being ignored instead of.
Yeah, she would probably just rather not have her around as much as possible so that she could live her life.
Yeah,
and pretend like she doesn't have kids.
Right.
Yeah. How do you feel when she goes to the strip club for the audition? That to me, that's one of like, this may be not the most like impactful scene, but it's so heartbreaking for her. It's like, I mean, you can kind of see it coming a mile away, so I don't know if it's like shocking or surprising, but it's like,
but you do wonder what's going through her mind.
Yeah.
When she gets there, and like, I got the impression from her discussion earlier in the movie that she didn't know exactly what that ad was.
Right, I agree.
And Michael Fassbender, I think, did when he showed it to her, or when she showed it to him.
Yeah.
So I think Michael Fassbender's doing these mental gymnastics to try to tell himself that what he's doing is okay because she's so experienced and she's dating boys and wanting to, dance in a strip club. So
Mm-hmm.
he's telling himself what he needs to hear to do what he knows he's going to do. But to her, it doesn't mean the same thing to her. She seems naive when it comes to what this flyer is. And so when she gets there, it's sort of like, when is she realizing it? How much is she realizing? And how is she going to proceed once it, what I mean? Once it comes time to make an action. Mm-hmm. And it's very discouraging and sad. And you could tell how deflated she feels when she leaves, I think. I don't know. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, my heart breaks for her because I think she doesn't realize it till she walks in, and you watch her watch this other, sort of sad audition. Like they also don't hype up the strip club to make it seem very glamorous at all.
No.
From a filmmaking perspective. And even the performance of the two people running the audition there's just such a cold, mechanical
indifference.
Creepiness. Yeah, indifference that makes it even grittier or like slimier.
Yeah.
The whole thing. So yeah, my heart just breaks for her because I know she's like, this seemed like something like a
promising,
like a potential path, anything. So yeah, that, and then I think if I were going to criticize the movie for anything, but I don't know if it's criticism, but like I think it feels a little tropey to like the guy in the movie when like they finally go to his house to confront him and there's another family. Maybe it's just, I've just seen that so much. It feels a bit tropey, but I think where we go with like her taking the kid and everything takes us beyond that trope in a way that doesn't really make it bother me very much.
Yeah, I don't think it ever bothered me. I think it stressed me out. Like when she leaves, like I was stressed when she went and knocked on the door. Then he like sends her on her way, and I was like, and then she goes back. And then I was stressed again. And then she, breaks into the house or opens the window and gets into the house. And I don't know. I was very stressed. And then
it's so stressful. And then they show up at the front door.
Yeah. And like, she's just listening. She's going to the bathroom. She's washing her face or whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it just builds and builds and builds. And every decision she makes for that stint of the movie is the wrong decision. And I'm so, like, I get so stressed and freaked out. Anyway, and then it all ends about as well as it possibly can, I guess.
With her leaving?
Yeah, the way when he like takes the kid, or she takes the kid falls in the water, and then you're like, oh my God, like there's no way the movie's going this way. This would be insane if the movie goes this way. And then luckily it doesn't. The kid's okay.
Yeah.
But then like when she returns the kid home, Michael Fassbender chases her down, like smacks her in the face and then like leaves, I guess. And presumably
doesn't say anything at all.
Presumably the last time they ever see each other.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. Like as soon as that sequence is over and he leaves, like I just like was able to like let out a sigh of relief.
Yeah, yeah, it's intense.
Yeah,
I would say that's probably definitely a section of the movie where it's really cutting down on like how long the movie feels. You know?
Yeah.
It's probably, I don't know, it's probably 20 minutes of the 30 minutes of the movie maybe, and it feels like 15.
Right.
10, 15. But that's so intense. I love that scene. Like that's, I don't know that there's much score in this movie that I can recall. I think all we have is like music.
Okay.
Like diegetic music from stuff.
Uh-huh.
And that scene in particular is just like the sound of like feet pounding on the field as they're running. I love it. I love the intensity and the feel of that scene.
Yeah. The sound design's pretty great in this movie, which, we've danced around this a lot and we haven't really addressed it head on. But this is the only Andrea Arnold movie that I've seen.
Same.
Although I have heard a lot of really great things about American Honey. I just
me too.
have not watched it because it is long.
Yeah, it's the runtime. I've always felt like I just don't quite have enough time.
Yeah, exactly. But Andrea Arnold, the one movie I've seen, Fish Tank, very strong.
Yeah, it is, and we haven't really specifically addressed the sex scene between them. Is there anything like we've kind of talked about the fallout of it and the build up to, but is there anything specifically that you wanted to say about it, or? I just don't want to like go the conversation and be like, oh, we didn't talk about that.
It's you see it coming, you know it's about to happen, but when it does, it still manages to be, I don't want to say worse than you imagined, but it's like it still manages to feel nasty, like his dirty talk to her.
Right. I think that's the thing that keeps the scene that you know is coming still surprising.
Yeah. That you're like,
because you think like he's gonna do it, and like it's gonna be, even if it's not gonna end well from her, but it might be like a nice experience for a brief time.
Yeah,
but
maybe
then, well, for her, I don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
this may be
she
what
might
she
enjoy
wants
it
or something. Yeah,
she wants it. She might enjoy it briefly, and then it'll all be a big mistake, and we'll learn that, and she'll realize that, etc. But for how much you know the scene is coming, when he starts talking dirty, I think that elevates it beyond what you maybe expect, because you don't quite see that coming.
Yeah, where you feel like you shouldn't be watching it, you're like, oh my.
Yeah, like that.
I was
that's
watching
surprising.
I was watching it with my fiance, and she ended up really liking this movie. But I remember when that scene was happening, as soon as he started the dirty talk, she was like, all right, man, if you're going to do this, just be quiet. Like, or at least be quiet or something. And it made me laugh.
Yeah. And I think, too, it's one of those things that, like, really cements home that, like, that this is purely a weird, twisted sexual conquest for him. You know? As opposed to any feeling.
Yeah,
you know,
I like how,
any,
I like how as soon
potential...
as he's done, he's like, man, I'm drunk. I'm really wasted.
Yeah, and like immediately starts like putting in the excuses.
Yeah.
For himself, and like, yeah.
As if that's going to do anything to to change whatever is going to happen.
Yeah. So there's that. One question too to go, if we're done with that scene. I don't want to move us on prematurely.
No, memorable for better or worse. You know, it's
sure well
shot.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think every frame of this movie is like awesome.
Yeah.
I love everything about the way that it looks in the cinematography. But I don't want to get too bogged down in that. But the other thing, so I have two other things to talk about. One is just, and this is sort of the do the right thing, like how people ask why Spike Lee throws the trash can through the window.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Like, I wonder if this is the same thing, but like why I always ask myself, why does she pee on the floor, on his carpet, like in the house after seeing like the video? I guess I don't know if is that like I don't want to ask that question. And then I guess like women to be like, well, only a man would ask that question.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's one of two options, or there's two options I can see for this. Like, one being it's a big FU and a big red flag, giving a big red flag to the wife and the family that something may be amiss.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or option two, she can't control herself and it was sort of involuntary and it was coming out.
Yeah.
But that would be a weird thing to spring on us at that time. Like when she gets really stressed or upset, she pees. I don't know. Maybe that's a thing.
Yeah. It's certainly not an established thing with her character.
Yeah. It maybe.
It could be like, like a mark. Like, now you have to explain this giant pee spot to your wife.
I took it as the first one when watching it. Yeah, that.
Okay.
I took it as like a big middle finger to him and the family, at least to freak him out. Let him know she was there.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's always kind of puzzled me, and maybe it's because she seems to reach that decision so fast.
Yeah,
Like it happens so quickly that
Yeah,
like, it
that's
almost
why-
feels like there's no thought to it.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I mean, maybe it's like an involuntary, like, freak out anxiety thing. I don't know. But it seems like, based on the way things escalate shortly after that, and she takes the kid, it seems like she's really trying to get Michael Fassbender to pay attention to her in a way and not dismiss her in the way that he keeps trying to.
Yeah, do things that can't be ignored.
Right.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Which seems, again, like just like a very young, naive kid who doesn't know better and was never taught things kind of reaction to go with.
Sure. Yeah, does seem very juvenile.
Yeah, so something like, that like someone like a child would do in retaliation is sort of like, which she is in a way, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I have one last thing, but I feel like I've been bringing up things, so if you have anything else.
No, sir. Knock it out. What is it?
Okay, I just want to talk, I think the dance scene.
Which one?
At the end, with the mom and two daughters, right
Yes.
before she's about to leave.
Yes.
I think is incredible.
Yeah.
And probably more than any other scene, it's the one scene that I couldn't stop thinking about how much I enjoyed after we watched the movie for the first time. And one of those things that stuck with me. I've always, I think at this point in the movie, like to just kind of halt things for this longish sort of scene where nobody's talking. They're just dancing to the music. I mean, it's the one moment I think we see them sort of like do something together as a family and enjoy each other's company to whatever extent they are in that scene.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's a beautiful moment to me.
Yeah. It's interesting because it seems like they're only able to really connect doing something like this, like through dance or something like that, something they have in common, which they do have a lot in common. Despite hating each other for the most part, it seems like. But then something like this happens and you realize that there could be love there. And I wonder if some of it has to do with the fact that she's about to leave. Mia's about to go. The mom can rest a little bit knowing that, one, there's no man around currently for her to feel competition with. And her daughter will be leaving soon. And then soon she will be able to be the only, feminine presence in the home. Right. And so I think she's able to let loose for a minute and truly enjoy her daughter's company for just a brief time. All of a sudden she's like, hey, it's one of your CDs. It's not as bad as I thought it would be or whatever, And then they just dance for a little bit. I think that's probably the only thing they might ever connect about.
Yeah. And I wonder if there's a thought from her mother of like, well, she's leaving and I'm sure she's well aware she's a terrible mother.
I don't think she cares. I don't think she cares about that.
You don't think there's any sort of last, not attempt to like patch things over, but to like do this ability to be open to a moment, regardless of how bad of a mother she's been.
I mean, I think she would prefer to like her daughter, but I think that could probably only happen when her daughter is like either long distance and not an immediate threat, or in a location where she knows she's not going to have to deal with her, like feeding her, housing her.
Sure.
She seems like she'll probably like her daughter a lot more in like 20 years.
Yeah. And her leaving, about to be gone, makes it easier to feel something like that. Yeah, I can see that.
I think that's probably the only time she's open to it. I think that's why she's open to her music now a little bit more than she was.
Yeah.
She's starting to feel nostalgic now that she's going, but if she was like, never mind, I'll stay, I think that would ruin it.
Yeah. I think maybe the horse also encompasses life's a bitch and then you die, now that I think about it.
Yeah. Don't expect much, and then an unceremonious end before you feel it should happen.
Yeah. But yeah, that scene just always stuck with me as just so powerful and so simple, you know, and it also makes me think of Band of Outsiders, which is another favorite movie of mine that has a break in the movie for a little dance scene.
Yeah.
So
it's always
it
good.
might be referencing a little film history as well.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate.
Absolutely. It's always fun when a movie is not scared to just stop for a minute and let characters dance.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's so much in it, you know?
Yeah.
There's so much to read and see, you know, and feel.
In Fish Tank or in dance scenes?
Maybe both. I mean, this one in particular. But, you know, you do something other than listen to characters talk and say their feelings out loud and their thoughts out loud. You can...
Well, you could see them
look at them.
You could see them bond in a way that words can't quite express, because it's not quite a friendship. It's not quite an I love you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that you could feel.
Yeah. Well, even the dialogue they do share in and around that scene is like, her mom's like, go on, fuck off then.
Right.
like they're never going to say it. And I think this dance scene stands in for anything like that they might say.
Right.
Which I think is the point that you're making.
Yeah.
So
I think so too.
I also like her sister, like
her goodbye.
Her goodbye.
Yeah.
This is so crass.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like immediately starts like running off to the side to like yell at some kids.
Yeah. And she's like, yeah. And the whole like, I hate you too.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of exchange.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Felt real.
Very real. But okay, I don't have anything else with Fish Tank. I mean, I could talk about this movie probably for longer, but we should probably end it at some point.
Yeah, we got more to talk about.
Yeah. So if you don't have anything else, do you want to move on to the poll?
No, I mean, the only thing I have to say is I like to do this sometimes when I remember to. Rewatch was great. I think to me, it's still sitting at a strong 4 stars, but you know, I could easily rate it 4.5 stars, and I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
You know?
I've loved this movie long before Letterboxd was a thing. So I think it has always been rated 5 stars on Letterboxd for me. But it's also anywhere I've rated it on anything, I've always given it the full rating. Because to me, it's
the full amount. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. And I don't know that it was when I first saw it, but it made such an impact on me. You know, I watched it with like the crew and like the DP of like some of my short films in grad school to like talk about style. And it just like my rewatches pretty quickly bumped it up to a 10 out of 10 for me. So it's been that way for a long time, even if it may not have been after the initial viewing.
Yeah, I think it's certainly staying with me a lot this time. So I may go back and re-edit my log on Letterboxd recently. So who knows? But good stuff. Enjoy watching it.
Do what you feel. Don't force it.
No,
if
but
you
that's
feel
the
it
thing.
And you're thinking about it.
Sometimes you got to let it build, right? Sometimes you can't explain when a movie becomes a 5-star movie. It just kind of happens, or a 4.5. You know, like one day you just think about it in a different way, or you open it up and you see your current rating, and you're like, well, that's not right. You know,
that's how I felt looking at your 4-star rating of Fish Tank.
Yeah,
I said, well, that's
something's wrong. Yeah,
that's not right. Did he mess up? Maybe should I text him, make sure he's okay?
Yeah.
Were you were you on your way to 5 and then you slipped and fell?
Yeah, I know. You just stop early before you went all the way to the right. Something happened mid rating to where you had to look up from your phone and stop swiping to the right.
Any possibilities are wild, but none of those are that you just rated it 4.
Yeah,
that's not possible.
Yeah, of course not. Anyways,
I'm joking. It's a valid rating.
Hey, it's a solid movie. It's a good rating. There's not many 4.
4 out of 5 is good.
Yeah, that's a solid in the camp of a good recommend to most people. All
okay.
Right. Anyways, should we talk about our next Criterion poll?
Yeah. So
see if you can keep this winning streak going. This winning streak of 1.
Well, I have double the chances now, kind of. Although really it's the same because in the end it's 50-50.
Yeah. Explain to them why you have more chances now.
Yeah. So, okay. So we're continuing on a film from each decade, going reverse chronologically, starting with the 2020s. We just did Fish Tank from the 2000s. Now we're each going to pick films from the 1990s. And historically, each host has chosen one film to throw up on a poll. But since there are 2 of us and X allows a maximum of 4 choices on a poll, we're each going to pick 2 films. I think because there are a ton of 1990s movies that are awesome that are on Criterion Collection, and it's really hard to narrow down, but also it's just fun picking more. Would you agree?
It is. It makes it more fun for us because then it's like you have 2 chances to win, or whatever. I don't know, not 2 chances to win, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's
we have 2 chances to win, but it's the same probability.
right.
Still 50%.
But
I guess.
it keeps like the options like, there's going to be 4 different movies that could win, and that's exciting. More exciting than 2.
I agree. So why don't you get us kicked off? Because I think I went first last time. So kick us off with your first choice.
Okay, so since I'm getting 2 to choose from, I'm going to go about this in 2 different ways. The first is I'm going to choose a movie that reminds me of the 90s, that when I think of the cover, when I think of the movie, it screams 90s to me. And then the second
Criterion
one,
cover?
I'm going to choose something I've never seen. What'd you ask, Justin?
The Criterion cover makes you think 90s, or like the cover of the movie?
Well, the original like poster of the movie, because I was alive in the
gotcha.
90s, so I remember it that way.
I'm with you. I think I know what you're picking actually based on that, but go ahead.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so the first one that I am choosing is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
I was right. I knew it.
Yep. That's the one, and I feel like that's going to overshadow the one that I haven't seen, which is kind of a bummer, but I haven't seen this movie in a long time, so that's okay too.
That is okay.
All right. What's your first?
So my first pick, yeah. Well, you took Fear and Loathing off. That was on my short list. So yeah, I had movies that I've seen a ton that I really love, that I wanted to pick. So I'm going to pick one of those for my first one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go with Wes Anderson's Bottle Rocket, his first film.
Yes. This was on my list as well.
It's a longtime favorite of mine. With several of the Wes Anderson movies, they have that vibe of like, whenever I'm watching it, it currently is my favorite Wes Anderson movie.
Right.
I think he's got about 4, maybe 5 of those. Where it's like whichever one I watched most recently kind of feels like my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So, and every time I watch Bottle Rocket, I'm like, I think this might be my favorite Wes Anderson. I
Underrated classic, yeah.
Yeah, it's so good, and then just it's inspiring as like an indie, from like an indie filmmaking standpoint. Whereas nothing about his movies feel low budget anymore.
No, definitely not.
All right. So that was my first choice. Mike's, what's your second and final choice?
Okay, so my second choice is going to be the movie that probably gets less name recognition, but it's the movie that I want to see, and it is Beau Travail.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't seen that either, so that would be a complete blind spot for me.
I just keep hearing about it. All these like filmmakers always talk about it, and it just seems like something I need to see.
Yeah. I don't even know what it's about, so I can't even comment on that.
I just know that guy's on the cover.
Yeah.
And there's a shadow on his face.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. Okay. So on to my second choice?
Yep.
All right. So I didn't choose any movies that I haven't seen. I got really excited by a lot of the ones that I had, but I am going to choose a movie I've only seen once, and have been dying to watch again, because my first experience was really good. But that is Robert Altman's The Player.
Ah, yes.
Starring Timothy Robbins. I love this movie. I think it's really cool. It's really good. We got maybe one of my favorite endings of all time. And maybe one of my favorite openings of all time, which I think you've seen the opening of this movie before, right? I think we watched it in a class at some point.
Maybe, probably. I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay. Well, if you don't know, I don't want to tell you or say anything about the opening of the movie because it's awesome.
Cool. Well, I haven't seen this, so there's a 50% chance that I'll be watching something new next episode.
Yeah. The 25% chance I'll be watching something new for me, but 75% chance that I'll be watching something that I already know I greatly enjoy.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I'll take those odds any day of the week.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah. So go vote in that poll. Follow us on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. It's at Casual Cinecast. That is the place we post the poll. Mm-hmm. Go there, vote, and with that, Mike, are we done with this episode?
We are. like us, subscribe to us, however you listen to podcasts. We're pretty much there.
Yeah, and thank you for listening. Thank you, Jake Wagner Russell, also for doing our intro and outro music. If you want to hear more of his music, go to soundcloud.com/bobscotch.
All right, bye.
Oh, you want to tell people what the next episode is?
Oh. Well, do we know what the next
If you
episode?
want.
Huh?
Well, I assume it's either going to be the winner of this poll or Furiosa.
Oh, well, I'm going to be watching Furiosa tomorrow, so it can be Furiosa if you want to go watch it.
Show off. Probably. I think I know my wife really wants to see it, and I think we're planning on watching whatever the heck, Fury Road. That's the name of the movie. I couldn't think of it. We're watching Fury Road after this tonight, so
Okay.
we may go see it. If we do, then we can do that.
Okay, so maybe Furiosa. If not, it'll be the winner of this poll.
I made you tell the people, but we don't even know.
Yeah.
So that's probably my fault, but
Yeah.
okay.
Thanks a lot. You made me into a
all
liar.
No, I
Possibly.
didn't. I made you into a person who gives options that are possibilities.
Yeah.
And they'll have to tune in to find out what's reality.
That's right.
You're only a liar if we do something that's neither of those two.
That's true. That's true. I did caveat accordingly. Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Have
Okay.
a good one.
You too. Later.
Bye.